The room was silent, too silent for anyone to feel at ease. The cameras had already stopped rolling for the day, but none of the cast had left the set. There was something heavy in the air, something unspoken that no one dared to voice until Dylan Wang broke the silence. His voice was low, but it carried across the room with a weight that made everyone freeze. He looked straight ahead, his eyes trembling with a mixture of relief and fear, and then he said the words that no one expected to hear. I hid my love for Shen Yue. The words hung in the air like a storm that had just broken. The crew members exchanged looks of disbelief, while Shen Yue herself remained frozen, her lips parting slightly as if she had been waiting years for those very words, yet dreading them all the same. Dylan's eyes softened, but his voice grew stronger, as if he had rehearsed this confession countless times in the silence of his own heart. I was scared, he continued, his hands clenched tightly at his sides. I was scared of losing everything, my career, my friendships, my fans. I thought if I buried it deep enough, it would disappear. But it never did. It only grew. Every word felt like a blade cutting into the fragile stillness of the room. Shen Yue's breath hitched audibly, and her eyes shimmered under the studio lights, as though the truth itself had found its way into her soul. But what no one expected was Joseph Zeng's reaction. He was standing just a few steps away, arms folded, leaning against the wall with an expression that was calm at first. Yet the moment Dylan spoke Shen Yue's name, with such raw honesty, Joseph's composure cracked. His eyes widened, his posture stiffened, and for a moment he looked like the ground had been ripped away beneath his feet. The silence broke when Joseph muttered in disbelief, You really loved her all this time." Dylan's head turned sharply toward Joseph. The two men locked eyes, one with pain and hidden regret, the other with betrayal and shock. The tension between them was palpable. Fans who would later hear whispers of this leaked scene could only imagine the storm of emotions in that moment. Dylan stepped forward, his voice trembling but steady enough to cut through Joseph's disbelief. "Yes. And I hid it from you too. I told myself it was for the best. I told myself it was to protect her. But the truth is, I was afraid you would see right through me. Afraid you would know how every time she smiled, it broke me inside because I wanted that smile to be mine and mine alone." The weight of those words made Joseph's expression crumble. He was speechless. His mouth opened as though to respond, but no words came. He simply stared at Dylan, stunned, as if he had been betrayed not only as a friend but as a witness to a secret that had been kept in the shadows for too long. Shen Yue could no longer hold back. She took a trembling step forward, her eyes now flooded with tears that shimmered like fragile glass ready to shatter. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Why now? Dylan, why are you saying this now in front of him? In front of everyone?" Dylan turned to her, his face filled with agony and release all at once. "Because I cannot keep it inside any longer. Every day I watch you stand there, every day I see you with others, and I swallow my truth until it burns me alive. I cannot keep pretending. I cannot keep lying. Not to myself, not to you, and not to him." The crew had all but stopped breathing. Some tried to look away, some could not stop staring, and Joseph, who was still leaning against the wall, finally exhaled a broken laugh that echoed like disbelief. "So all this time," Joseph whispered, his voice cracking, "all this time you were in love with her, and you let me stand here like a fool, believing nothing was wrong." Dylan's jaw tightened, but his eyes never left Joseph. "I never wanted to hurt you, but the truth has its way of breaking free. And now it has." The weight of betrayal, love, and silence filled every corner of the set. Shen Yue covered her face with her hands as if trying to shield herself from the hurricane of emotions, while Dylan's voice grew softer, but no less powerful. "I love her. I always have. And I do not want to hide it anymore." The words echoed like a confession carved into stone. Joseph's face paled as he turned away, unable to process the reality that had just been laid bare before him. Shen Yue stood frozen, torn between the two men who had both been her pillars in different ways. And Dylan, finally, stood tall, the weight of years of silence lifting off his shoulders even as the storm it created tore through everyone around him. The set was no longer a set. It was a battlefield of emotions, a stage where hearts clashed louder than any script ever written. Fans who would later hear of this leaked confession would be left speechless, just as Joseph was, wondering if the line between fiction and reality had finally blurred beyond repair. And in that moment, the world realized one undeniable truth. Dylan Wang had spoken from the very depths of his soul, and nothing would ever be the same again. The silence after Dylan Wang's confession felt heavier than any words spoken. Everyone on set looked at each other, but no one dared to move. Shen Yue's eyes trembled with emotions she had fought to hide for so long, her fingers clenching the hem of her sleeve, as if holding herself together. Joseph Zeng, who had stood nearby when the words escaped Dylan's lips, was still frozen, his mouth half open, unable to believe what he had just heard. The cameras were still rolling, but no one cared anymore. This was no longer acting. This was raw reality spilling out into the open. Dylan's voice had not been planned. His words had not been scripted. He confessed that he had been hiding his feelings for Shen Yue for years, and that fear and circumstance had kept him silent. But now, standing there with everyone watching, he could no longer hold it back. Joseph Zeng tried to speak, but his voice broke halfway. He turned his face away, as though trying to hide the storm of emotions rising within him. For months, there had been whispers about his closeness to Shen Yue, rumors that perhaps there was something more, something hidden beneath their friendship. Now those whispers suddenly felt heavier. Did Dylan know? Was this confession his way of fighting for her, even with Joseph standing right there? Shen Yue's lips parted as if to respond, but before she could form a single word, Bai Lu walked in. Her entrance was unplanned, unexpected, and perfectly timed to cut the moment in two. She stopped in her tracks, her eyes darting from Dylan to Shen Yue, then finally resting on Joseph. The tension was unbearable, like a glass about to shatter. Bai Lu took a slow step forward. Her voice was calm, yet sharp enough to slice the silence. "So this is the truth you've been hiding," she said, her gaze fixed on Dylan. He did not deny it. He did not explain. He simply lowered his head, as if carrying a weight too heavy to lift. Wang Yibo, who had been watching quietly from the corner, suddenly stood up. His voice was steady, but carried a fire that no one expected. "Do you realize what you've done?" he asked Dylan. "You've broken every unspoken rule between all of us. You've confessed feelings that change everything." His words echoed in the room, forcing every heart to confront the truth they wanted to run from. Joseph finally regained his voice, though it trembled as he spoke. "Why now, Dylan? Why here, in front of everyone? Do you think confessing this way will make things easier, or did you just want the world to witness Shen Yue's reaction?" His words cut deep, and Shen Yue's eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. But Dylan did not retreat. He looked straight at Shen Yue, his eyes locked onto hers with a determination that sent chills down everyone's spine. "Because if I don't say it now," he said slowly, "I will regret it forever." The words landed like thunder, shaking everyone to the core. Shen Yue's tears finally rolled down her cheeks, but whether they were from relief, heartbreak, or confusion, no one could tell. Joseph's face went pale, his fists clenched tightly by his side. Bai Lu shook her head in disbelief, her expression unreadable, while Wang Yibo remained frozen, as though even he, the calm observer, was struck by the power of Dylan's confession. The set was no longer just a set. It had become a battlefield of unspoken emotions, a stage where hidden truths collided under the spotlight. The cameras kept rolling, unknowingly capturing the most real and raw scene of their lives. And the entire world would soon see it, because nothing this explosive could stay hidden for long.